said, okay, God, if you're real, show me. The reason I believed Christianity was true was I didn't want it to be. And then I had to consider the terrifying possibility that I was supposed to be Christian.
Given what you've told us so far about your growing up years, where you sat within the sort of spiritual realm, let's say, you're pretty unlikely to explore Christianity. So how did that happen? Did you want it to be true?
No, well, see, I didn't explore it. It came and got me. So that was the thing that happened. So I'm trying to remember the kind of order in which things happened, but I was sort of practicing Wicca. I was dissatisfied with it. I've been on this spiritual search for about 10 years or so, and I've been going in all sorts of directions. I've been reading the Tao Te Ching, and I've been exploring mythology and looking at other religions, and I was really looking for the truth. And I was increasingly convinced that there was a God behind things. There was some intelligence behind the universe. There was some creative force. There was some order to things. But I didn't know what it was. And I'd looked in Buddhism, and I'd looked in Wicca, and I hadn't found it. And I got to the point where I remember I was in the garden. I was here, but I was just over there, about 5 yards from where we were sitting, and it was one evening, and I was feeling quite desperate, and I actually got on my knees on the ground just over there, and I said, it was like an attempt at a prayer. I said, okay, God, if you're real, show me. Right, just show me who you are. Show me what to do, because I think there's a God, but I don't know what to do. So it was kind of like a challenge. I threw down the gauntlet, which was a bad idea, because it turns out that when you pray, sometimes you get answered. So I thought, I'm just going to do this because I've got nothing to lose. So I just did that. I said, if you're real, show me what to do. Show me who you are. Show me what I'm supposed to do about this. And then it wasn't long afterwards that I had this dream with Jesus in it. Okay? I had this dream, and I saw him there, and he was just standing in front of me, and he was sort of offering me something. And I woke up with this dream in my head, and it was so vivid that I wrote it down and drew a picture of it. And I thought, I thought that was a bit of an interesting dream, but I didn't immediately connect it to the prayer, probably. But then I just then Christian things kept happening to me, right? I was running a writing class at the time, and I was running a manuscript service. Writers could come to me with their manuscripts, and I would edit them, and suddenly all these Christians started popping up who were writing autobiographies, or vicars wanted me to look at their sermons or something like that. And I thought, there's a lot of Christians turning up here. And then I was discovering that friends I'd known for years were actually quietly Christian, and I hadn't known it. And a lot of people were talking about Christianity, and I think I had a couple more dreams as well. Very strange thing happened as well. I went out for dinner with my wife. It was our wedding anniversary. We went out for dinner, and we were just in a restaurant, and we were just chatting. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, she said to me, "You're going to become a Christian." And now she's not a Christian, and she doesn't know where that came from either, but she has this slightly prophetic gift, my wife. Sometimes she can see things I can't see. It's a woman thing. They're much smarter than us. They often can see, I find, things that the blokes are too busy talking to pay attention to. So she said, "You're going to become a Christian." I said, "What are you talking about? Where did that come from?" She said, "I don't know. I just know it's going to happen." So all of this strange stuff was happening. And I started to realise that this might be connected to me asking what the truth was. And I thought, oh, blimey, I don't want to be a Christian. I mean, I know I asked you the truth, but I don't want that truth, thanks. I want to be a Christian. But that kept happening. And then what happened was I started to feel like I was really being discouraged from doing any more of this Wicca stuff I was doing. And we were in the house of the woman who ran this group I was in, this coven, and we were sitting down and we were about to go into this little temple and do a ritual, and I had a really strong sense that I shouldn't go and do it. And suddenly I felt really sick, and I had to sit down, and I went pale, and everyone was fussing around me saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And I just thought, I can't go in and do that. It was like someone had grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and said, "Get out of there." So I did. I stopped doing that. And then it just kind of kept happening. And then I had to consider the terrifying possibility that I was supposed to be Christian, and that was how it started. So it wasn't, here's the thing. The reason I believed Christianity was true was I didn't want it to be. So I went looking for Buddhism because I thought it would suit me. I went looking for Wicca because I thought it would suit me. I went looking for things I was interested in. But Christianity, or specifically Christ, came to me without me looking for them. And if you'd sat me down and tried to evangelize me, I'd have run off, because I don't want to be evangelized by a Christian, thank you very much. I didn't go looking there, which is why I thought it was true. I said, okay, well, I asked God what the truth is, and this is what's happening. So maybe that's the truth. So,
do you remember the point where you actually said, I think this is true? Was that just something that happened over time?
Well, it was something that was building up, because I started doing things obviously like reading the Gospels, and then I hadn't really done that properly for a long time. I'd never done it as someone who thought it might be true. So I read them, and they were kind of surprising. They weren't what I expected. And I read other books about Christianity, and I was listening to podcasts and talking to people and chatting with people and all this, and I thought, well, yeah, maybe, I suppose there's a possibility this is actually real. When you look into Christianity, when you start to read the Gospels, when you look at the people who actually practice it properly, you look at the history of the church, you quite quickly realise that a lot of the myths you believe about Christianity are actually not true. There are a lot of stuff we've been told, especially since the Enlightenment, by people who don't like Christianity, who are caricaturing it. And it's easy to caricature it, just like it is anything else. But you grow up with a caricature of what the Christian faith is. And when you actually look into it, it's a different thing. And so, yeah, really, that was what happened. And I was just sort of gradually considering the possibility that this might be true, and I had to take it seriously. And then I had another experience which was kind of very profound. It was very strange. I was at a concert. My son plays the guitar in a music school, and we had to go to a concert in a hotel, and he was playing and lots of the other kids at the school were playing. So there was just this concert, and you had to go in and sit down in a hall with the other parents and sit and listen to the guitar. So I went in, and I was just walking to sit down in my seat, and suddenly I was just overwhelmed by this completely universal kind of oceanic sense of love, in which I could see everyone else in the room and what they really were. And I had this deep love for them, which is not natural for me. I'm not somebody who goes around with a deep love for strangers. I mean, and I just did. And I could feel everything was connected to everything else. And I could feel this huge thing overwhelming me. And I had to run out of the room and sit down in the hall. And I knew it was Christ, or it was the Holy Spirit or something. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew that was what was happening. And it was like a final affirmation. It's like, this is what the world really is. Okay, this is what it actually looks like to me. So there it is for you. And it was like I had a little touch of something enormous that actually, if I'd had any more of it, I probably would have died, because it was so huge.
Wow.
And so I wanted it to stop, but then I wanted it to never stop.
Yeah.
And I thought, I think I have to be a Christian. And that was that. I just thought, I have to be a Christian. I don't even know what that means, but I think that's what it is.
Where do you now express worship, and what community is an encouragement to you?
Well, I'm an Orthodox Christian, so I went through a phase of, as you probably do when you become a Christian, thinking, well, what do I do about that? Because I'd come from outside a tradition. I wasn't brought up in any particular church. But again, what I did was I started praying, and I said, well, okay, God, here's another gauntlet for you. If you want me to be in a church, send me to the right church. And I specifically said, can you find me a priest? Actually, I want to meet a priest. I want to meet someone who's going to bring me into the correct church. For a while, I thought I could be a Christian on my own in my room, but I very quickly realised it doesn't really work like that. I was going to have to go out and meet people. So I was looking around. I was going to Catholic churches and sitting in there and wondering if a priest would come and talk to me. And I went through a phase of, I would stop the car whenever I drove past the church and feel a great pull to have to just go in and sit there and attempt to pray and just see what happened. Maybe someone would turn up, but they never did. And I was looking into the Orthodox Church too, because I was quite intrigued by that. But I didn't know much about it, and it was very foreign. The Orthodox in the West are all from Eastern countries. They might be from Greece or Romania or Russia, and I don't have any connection to those places. So I thought, well, I'm quite interested in the Orthodox Church, because it seems like it's maintained the tradition for a long time in a way that a lot of Western churches haven't, but I can't just walk in. But then what happened is an Orthodox monastery opened in Ireland, the first one, the only one so far. Very small place, and it's only about 45 minutes from here. It's opened by a couple of Romanian nuns. And I plucked up the courage to write to them and say, you know, would you mind if I came along? And they said, yes, of course, come along. So I went to a liturgy there. And it was the most powerful Christian experience I've had, an Orthodox liturgy. Incredibly powerful thing, even though a lot of it was in Romanian. I didn't understand the language, but the experience of that ceremony, which is so old and so deep, was very overwhelming. And I thought, I didn't know Christianity could be like this. I thought it was just getting a sermon and then going home, but this is quite something. And there was a priest there, and I thought, well, maybe I'll have a chat with him. And the nun who runs the monastery, she went to him and she said, Father, there's an English guy here who'd like to talk to you about orthodoxy. Could you come and see him? And he said, yeah, well, if he's keen, he'll wait. So he took his time, which I liked. That was one of the things that made me think, okay, this is quite serious. He took his time, and then he came and chatted to me, and he said, yeah, this is great. You know, keep coming along, don't rush. Take it easy. It's a serious decision. Keep coming to the liturgy. Here's some prayers you can do. And I really liked him, and I thought, this is good. He's not trying to convert me immediately. He's saying, you know, take your time, keep coming. So I did. I kept coming, and then eventually ended up baptised in the River Shannon in January, which was extremely cold, by that priest that I'd met, and that was 3 years ago.
Tell me about your baptism.
Well, my priest is he's a very active man. He's great, and he said, look, I think we need to baptise you properly in the river. He said, if you ever go to Mount Athos, which is the Orthodox monastic republic, he said, there's some very serious Russians there. If you haven't been baptised in the river, they won't let you in. You can't just put water on your head. So, and he loves doing that. He recently baptised somebody in the sea in Galway, which was fantastic. So he said, oh, come, let's do a proper baptism, like Christ in the Jordan. So we had to go to the River Shannon. It was actually in the middle of COVID, so probably technically I wasn't even supposed to be being baptised, but whatever. So we went down to the River Shannon. It was on Theophany, Epiphany, in January. So it's the 6th of January, which is also my son's birthday. And it was a frosty day, there was ice everywhere, and the River Shannon is very cold, it's not the Jordan. So we went to the monastery. The monastery was right next to the river, and we had the baptism in the river, and my priest was just about able to say the words. He was trying to keep his breath because he was halfway up to the waist in icy water as well, and I went under the water 3 times and then went back to the monastery, and I had the chrismation and the whole ceremony, and then the liturgy, and then I took communion for the first time, and it's all a bit of a blur in some ways now, because it's a bit like getting married or something, you know. It's such a life event, but very powerful, and I really did start to see the world differently afterwards. Not in some instant way where suddenly everything was miraculous, but I noticed that after I was baptised, the world looked different. Somebody described it to me as previously having seen in black and white, now you can see in colour, and it did feel a bit like that, and it still feels like that's something that's still unfolding all the time. So yeah, it was a very powerful thing. Something, if you told me 5 years before that was going to happen, I would never have believed you.